Hello, everybody. It's been a while since I created a video to post. I've been posting other announcements and obviously your different lecture PowerPoints and Prezi presentations, but I wanted to post a video today to just talk to you briefly about the module that we're in and kind of the point of the semester that we're in. I think it's not by accident that this particular week and one of the modules that you're focusing on is self-awareness, because I think it's really important at this point in the semester that you think about self-awareness, you think about what that means, and you really work hard to kind of break some of your past behaviors or maybe self-defeating patterns that have really gotten your way from being successful. We are almost done with the summer semester. At the beginning, I told you it was going to go very quickly since the summer semester is a shortened semester of only 8 weeks, but it flies by, especially once we get into July. So we literally only have 2 weeks left of the semester. And so it's really, really important that you're taking note of where you're at in the course. If you're missing work, if you've fallen behind, please reach out to me so we can have those conversations to see if you still have a chance to get back on track and to finish with a passing grade, or if we need to potentially talk about withdrawing. And you do want to have that conversation with me early, because the deadline to withdraw, let me look because I have it right here in front of me to make sure I'm giving you the right date. So for the summer semester, your last day to withdraw is the 21st. So that's next week. So it's really important that you take a note, take note of where you're at, and see how you're doing and have that conversation with me. So what I have pulled up is your the PowerPoint that's in your module about self-awareness. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but I do want to point out a few things that I think are important for you to talk about. At the beginning of the PowerPoint, it talks about successful students versus struggling students, and each chapter kind of begins this way and gives you some examples to recognize what do successful students do versus what struggling students do. But I really want to point out for this particular chapter that I think we could recognize ourselves in some of these things, and it's really important that we try to break that habit of being unsuccessful or struggling in this area. So a successful student in self-awareness is really able to recognize when they're off course. So first of all, they're able to look at their performance, look at what's going on around them, and take a minute and say, I'm not doing well. I'm not doing as well as I want to, or there's some things I'm struggling with. And then they also need to identify their own self-defeating patterns, emotions, behavior that has gotten their way in the past, things like procrastination, things like blaming others, things like no motivation, all of those types of things play a role. And if in the past you've kind of had different attitudes like, I don't care, or it's the teacher's fault, or there's nothing I can do about it, or things like that, that's going to impact you being able to be successful now. So we want to break those. And then the last one is being able to rewrite that, rewrite the way that you look at things. And that's hard. That's not an easy thing to do, especially if it is a emotion or habit or a thought that you've had for a very long time. Maybe you were raised a certain way and that's kind of how you were taught. It's going to be hard to rewrite that script. It's going to be hard to break out of that pattern, but it can be done if you really focus in on it and use some of the strategies that are given in this chapter. So I think it's really important that this chapter specifically kind of coincides with this time of the semester to really pay attention to, am I being self-aware of how I'm doing in my classes? And if I'm not doing well, if I'm struggling, what can I do about it? What are some resources I can reach out to? What is a different way I can think about it? Maybe I need to communicate with my instructor or whatever the case may be. So I encourage you to really pay attention to this PowerPoint and really read through and look at all of the different things that kind of contribute to our core belief system. And so the things they really focus on here are our own thoughts, so our own thoughts and behaviors. So our thought patterns, our emotional patterns, and our behavior patterns. But also part of the chapter does talk about those external forces. So how you were raised, who raised you, what kind of influence you had from adults and other people in your life, where we live, what kind of culture we grow up in. All of that also affects some of that self-awareness and your core belief system. So really make sure you kind of read through that and think about that in terms of your own life. And then the other thing I would really encourage you to look at are these pages that deal with self-defeating patterns, because it's really important that we recognize that these are self-defeating. They're getting in our way of being successful. They're not supporting our goals. They're not helping us to be motivated. So if you can recognize yourself in some of these, I waste a lot of time doing unimportant things like TV, video gaming. I turn in my assignments late. I worry excessively about trying to be perfect. If any of these things kind of apply to you, recognize what that is. Recognize that those are self-defeating patterns that can get in your way of doing well. And then obviously there are skills in here for, okay, well, what do I do about that? Then if I can recognize the self-defeating pattern, how do I rewrite the script? How do I break out of that pattern? So it's really, really great chapter. It has a lot of really strong information in it to help you. I think we all have different self-defeating patterns. I mean, we're human, we're not perfect, but to have an occasional self-defeating thought, or to have a bad day, or to occasionally turn something in late, all of those things is within the realm of normalcy, and you can overcome that and continue to be successful. But if it becomes a pattern, if it becomes a habit, if you're constantly doing nothing but playing video games and your homework goes undone, or you're constantly turning in things late and you're missing points, or whatever the case may be, that becomes a pattern, and that does have to be addressed. And it can be a very difficult thing to do, especially as you're transitioning into college, because you're used to doing things a certain way in high school or whatever your previous education experience was. And so if it doesn't work, sometimes we're like, why is this not working? This is always how I've studied. This is always how I've done my schoolwork. I'm not doing anything differently. This should still work. And the truth is, it's not always going to work. We are going to have to make changes. We are going to have to figure out a different way of approaching it. So hopefully this class has helped you with some of that so far in terms of different ways to look at things. What are some things I need to be aware of myself, like how I talk to myself. So when we're talking about those inner voices, how I set goals, those types of things. So hopefully you've picked up some of those skills along the way that can help you now attack these self-defeating patterns if you see these in your life. So I really, really encourage you to spend a lot of time on this PowerPoint and really kind of thinking about this for yourself, and then definitely addressing where you're at in the semester right now with your classes. And if you are struggling, or if things are not going well, especially for this class, please reach out to me so that we can have that conversation before it is too late, because I do not want you to end with a poor grade, or if I don't want you to struggle overall without reaching out to me so that we can have that conversation about your options. Okay, so I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I look forward to talking to many of you as we finish up this semester that is almost over. All right, have a great day.